Good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nikki Grandorge, the Leadership and Communities Manager at New Zealand Wine Growers and the National Coordinator for Women in Wine. So we're delighted to bring you another in our series of the Women in Wine Development Series. And we've got a really great session lined up today with Kirsty McLaren from McLaren Recruitment. These sessions aim to help everyone upskill, gain knowledge and progress themselves. Our motto at Women in Wine is Connect, Inform, Change. And we feel these webinars really helping do just that. So today we're going to learn some fantastic practical tips on how to progress our careers and progress ourselves. At various stages of our career, we need to submit information about ourselves to apply for a new job or look for internal promotion or apply for positions on courses such as our mentoring program and sometimes for scholarships. So we need to make ourselves known, and we need to make ourselves known for all the right reasons, and we need to present our best selves in these situations. So today, Kirsty is going to tell us how to do this in the best possible way. So I'd just like to make a note that we will keep this confidential. You can pop your questions in the chat or the Q&A. We'll be keeping an eye out for those and read those out from time to time, but we will obviously keep those confidential. And also a reminder that this is being recorded. So I'll now introduce you to Kirsty and then hand over. So Kirsty has a vast experience in recruitment and is Joint Director of McLaren Recruitment based in Wellington. Prior to that, she has worked for other key recruitment companies as well as HR roles for companies such as Vector and Kiwi Rail. In 2019, she received a Kiwi Bank Local Hero Award for the work she does in connecting not-for-profit organisations with amazing talent. That's fantastic. Congratulations, Kirsty. And I'll now hand over to you. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Nikki, and thank you for having me. I'm thrilled to be here. So I'm just going to share my screen, if that's okay, and bring up the presentation. Bear with me a moment. Sorted.
No problem.
All right. Cool. Can we see that?
Yes, that looks great. Thank you.
Okay, fabulous. So yes, today, Grape Ambitions, landing the perfect job. As Nikki said, practical career progression advice for women in the wine industry. So about me, as Nikki said, I'm Kirsty McLaren, Director and Co-owner of McLaren Recruitment. We've been around for 36 years. It was originally my father's business, and 10 years ago I took over with my business partner Nikki. You'll see our pictures there. We are based in Wellington, but we do recruit all around the country. Primarily we work with purpose-driven organisations. Those are charities, not-for-profits, membership associations, and we recruit for everything from admin to chief executive and everything in between. We are a small but mighty team of 5. We've got Nikki and I and 3 others, coincidentally all women. Nikki has actually just gone on maternity leave, so it's me holding up the fort for the next 9 to 12 months. I'm also a mum myself. I have Harvey, who's 12, and Elise, who's 9. And in my spare time, I love a good rosé. So thank you for having me here. I've been in recruitment for about 20 years now, and what keeps me really passionate about this work is helping people find roles where they don't just match the job description, but they feel where they belong. They feel seen and valued and really able to thrive. Today's session, as Nikki said, it's about real practical advice. I didn't want to give any fluffy theory, but just useful tips and tools that you can take away, whether you're actively job hunting now, or you're seeking an internal promotion, or applying for the Women in Wine mentoring program or a scholarship, or maybe you're just quietly thinking about what's next. This is a safe and supportive space, as Nikki said. It's confidential today. Feel free to ask questions as we go, and we'll probably answer a few as we go, and certainly at the end as well. what we're going to cover today. Think of it as your job search starter pack, I think. Whether you're ready to apply next week or just quietly testing the waters, you'll leave with a bunch of really practical insights to help you feel more confident and more in control, hopefully. Firstly, I'll provide a snapshot of the 2025 job market, what's happening right now. Getting clear on what you want and what is your value proposition. This is about tuning into you, what lights you up, what your strengths are, and how to articulate those when you're job hunting. Key things to get right in your CV and how to make yours stand out. How to write a cover letter, should you? Yes. Using LinkedIn to maximize your job search, even if you're not on it every day like I am. I'll show you how to make LinkedIn really sort of work for you in the background. Interview tips that help you land the role, from how to prep and how to tell your story in a way that feels really natural and memorable. What employers are really looking for. Spoiler, it's not about perfection. It's often about attitude, adaptability, and how you make them feel. And then I said Q&A, we'll open up for questions at the end. I'll start with a job market snapshot. I'm not going to pretend that I'm a wine industry expert. I know, many of you will have been in the sector for a long time and will have a much deeper understanding of what it's like on the ground than me. So I thought I'd just give a broader job market overview, and how it might relate to what you're seeing or experiencing in your world. I'm not going to lie, it is still quite tough out there, unfortunately. However, after 2 years of consistent declines, there is a glimmer of stability returning to the New Zealand job market. While job ads on Seek were down 8% year on year in May, that was the smallest decline since late 2022. So hopefully things are turning around. In Seek's latest employment report, there were 3 regions that recorded monthly job ad growth in May. There was Taranaki that recorded 6% growth, Wellington 2%, and Southland 1%. Marlborough, which may be relevant to some of you, actually recorded the largest monthly decline in ad volume, dropping 16% in May. And there was also a notable month-on-month job ad decline in Otago, which was -6%, Manawatu -5%, and Auckland, which was down 4%. But what you see on job boards, it isn't always the whole story, and fewer job ads doesn't always mean fewer opportunities. We are still seeing lots of people with multiple job offers despite stiff competition and less job numbers. Application numbers per role continue to rise 2% month on month, and we're certainly continuing to see that in the roles that we work on, and that's from admin to executive. By way of example, we had an admin role in Christchurch a few months ago that had 600 applications, a GM role in Auckland that had 130, and a management role in Wellington that had about 200. So this really highlights the competitive nature of the job market and why it's important to set yourself up to stand out amongst a sea of applicants, which is what we're going to work through today. Should we see if we have any questions now, Nikki, or just sort of keep going?
Yeah, there are no questions at this stage. I think,
okay.
Yeah, launching.
Right. Okay, cool. So we'll keep going. So getting clarity. Firstly, start with what you want. Before we get into how to sell yourself, take a moment to reflect on what you want more of or less of in your next role. Is it more flexibility you're looking for, more variety, a team with better vibes, less late night emails, less chaos? Whatever it is, name it and write it down. Getting clear on what really matters to you makes the whole job hunting process more targeted and less draining for you. Once you've done that, then ask yourself, what do I bring to the table? This is where your value proposition comes in. It's basically your answer to the question of why should someone hire me over someone else? So you want to get really clear on your unique mix of skills and experience. And that's not just for the particular role that you're looking at. Think about, the additional skills and strengths and experience that you might bring that beyond that job that might add value. So skills and experience, your strengths and personality, achievements, and the way you work. And what's your superpower? Right? Are you the calm one in crisis? Are you the person who lifts team morale? Are you the detail-oriented one who makes sure things goes out without mistakes? That stuff really matters. And by the way, here's a stat that I thought really relevant here. Some of you may have heard this. Research shows that women often wait until they tick every box before applying for a job, while men might apply with only about 60% of the criteria. Just think, I'll throw my hat in the ring. So that imposter syndrome, it's really real. So, my advice is if you meet most of what's asked and you're really interested in the role, then don't hold back, because your unique value often goes beyond a checklist. Show, don't just tell. By that I mean, where you can, include quantifiable achievements. So that's results, improvements, impact. These help people picture what you'll do for them. So it's easy to say that you're a great communicator, for example, but can you show it with an example of a project where your communication skills actually made something happen? Or can you show growth stats or return on investment figures, for example? Use every channel to tell your story. Your value proposition shouldn't just live in your head. You want to weave it through your CV, your cover letter, your LinkedIn profile, how you answer your interview questions. This doesn't mean repeating the same thing everywhere. It's, looking for opportunities to reinforce the story of who you are, how you work, and what makes you valuable. And don't forget to let a little personality shine through, especially in small teams. Personality really matters, and people want to know what it's like to work with you. So you can differentiate yourself not by just what you've done, but by how you come across. And that authenticity always will really help stand out. Getting into the practical things, your CV, key things to get right. As we know, first impressions really matter, and your CV is your first impression, and in some cases it's your only opportunity to get in the door. So you want it to be clean, clear, and easy to read. A beautifully written CV is unlikely to get you the job on its own, but a messy, confusing one can definitely cost you the opportunity. So the must-dos, make sure you get the details right. Spelling and grammar is so important. Spell check is your best friend, as is someone else's eyes. Get someone else to have a look at it once you've finished. Include a tailored personal statement. So that's a short paragraph near the top of your CV that introduces who you are, what you're looking for, and what you bring. And tailor this to each application, tailor it to the role or organisation. It's your chance to really set the tone. List your roles in reverse chronological order. So start with the most recent role first and include both the month and year. It really helps recruiters and hiring managers to understand the flow of your career. Address short tenures or gaps. So if you've had a contract role, a redundancy, or a break to care for kids, for example, just say so. You don't need to go into detail, but a quick explanation is going to help people stop making assumptions. Responsibilities and achievements for each role. List not just what you did, but what you achieved. So where possible, quantify those achievements. Numbers, outcomes, efficiencies, savings, those help to paint a picture. And as I said before, show, don't just tell. And formatting, keep it simple and readable with plenty of white space. Unless you're going for a creative role, just go easy on fonts and graphics and just keep it really simple. I know there's an age-old debate about the right length of a CV. I often hear 2 pages bandied around. There's no right or wrong. There's no hard and fast rule in New Zealand. What really matters, as I say, is that it's clear, relevant, and well organised. So don't feel that you need to cut important details just to, fit a page limit. I'd rather see a longer CV with relevant details. what not to do. Maybe we'll answer some questions after this if there are any, but what not to do, we've obviously talked about the must-dos, and here's a few things not to do, and certainly, no judgment if you've done this before, but it's about, it's not about perfection, it's about making sure that your CV works for you, not against you. So dense blocks of text, as I say, if your CV looks like an essay, no one's going to read it. Break things up, use bullet points, clear headings, and lots of white space. Remember, if it's hard to read, it won't get read. Waffly summaries with no clear direction. So we talked about the personal statement and the summary about yourself. Be really specific there. So something vague like I'm a motivated team player seeking a challenging opportunity. It doesn't really tell me anything. So get specific about who you are and what you bring. Outdated email addresses, we still often see things like hotbabe89 at Hotmail. Avoid cutesy or confusing email addresses. If you need to, set up a new one. Just your name is fine, and double check that your contact details are correct. We often receive CVs where there's a typo in the phone number and we can't get hold of people. Leaving off dates or role titles. This can, listing every job forever. So focus on relevance. You don't need to go back to your first job after school unless it is really relevant. Just focus on the last 10 to 15 years and provide detail for those. You can provide bullet pointed summary of your experience at the end if you want. Leaving off dates or titles, this can potentially look like you're hiding something, even if you're not. So, be upfront and clear. As I said, put start and finish dates for all roles using the format month and year. Often we'll see people just put the year, so 2024 to 2025, for example, but that doesn't tell us were you there for 2 years or were you there for just a few months. So put month and year. Avoid photos. So unless you're applying for an acting or a modelling role, just leave it off. I think it really helps to reduce unconscious bias, and it just keeps the focus on where it belongs, and that's your skills. Have we had any questions come in, Nikki, that we want to run through?
No, nothing at this stage.
Yeah, okay.
I guess is it important to include visa status or home address or where you're based or anything like that? Or are there certain things that should be left off, like date of birth used to go on there and now doesn't go on there? So
yeah, that's a really good question. So visa status, if you are on a visa, then yes, absolutely, I would include that in your CV. But things like your full address and your date of birth, not necessary. Probably your location. I would recommend putting your location on there. And I've actually just put a post on LinkedIn last week, which created big discussion about if you are applying for a job outside of your region, address what your intention is. If you are intending to relocate, say so. If you are hoping that you can do the role remotely, talk about how you can see that working, or better still, actually reach out to the employer first and see if they're open to remote working, because not every role can be done remotely.
That's a good point. I have just had another question pop in. Sorry, it's not coming. Must have gone into the queue. Sorry, I've got chat and Q&A here. It's asking about, what about references? Should we provide their details or put on request only?
Yeah, I wouldn't put their details on there. I think just putting details on request is the best approach. Have your referees ready to go if and when you get to that point. But I think by putting it out there, as much as it's not kosher for an employer or recruiter to be calling your referees without your permission and heads up, it does happen. So yeah. I think, to avoid that, just put referees available upon request.
That's a good safeguard. Right, and someone's just asked about how to write a CV, which I guess we're going through at the moment, but maybe just right at the top, do you put your name? Do you put the words CV or curriculum vitae, or how would you put, what would you put at the very top, I think?
Yeah. Yeah, good question. No, I don't think you need to give it a title of CV. Just your name, your location, your contact details, and then you can get straight into, as I say, the personal statement, and then your experience. So I would tend to get your experience up quite early, and obviously include details like your education, and use subheadings, as I say, because we want lots of we want it to be clear, clean, subheadings for professional statement, experience, education, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, sounds good. And this one's just about if someone's been freelancing for the last few years, but now looking to find a full-time job, how would you go about including that information? I guess it's been on different contract work and things.
Yeah. So I would very clearly lay out in your CV the roles that you've been working on. Include some detail, as I say, with the quantifiable. And if you are looking to then go into a permanent position, sometimes people look at that and go, oh, I think they'd get bored, or, make assumptions. So I think in your cover letter or your personal statement at the top, state where you're at now. I have been freelancing for the last however many years. I would really like to get into permanent employment because, and just make it really clear, so that no one's making any assumptions or has any questions.
That's a really good point. Yeah, thank you. Okay, it's questions for now.
Okay, cool. To cover letter or not? We've all heard the rhetoric, the cover letter is dead. So to cover letter or not? And the short answer from my perspective is yes. If the job ad asks for it, do it. You follow instructions. If it's silent on the matter, do it anyway. Your cover letter, it's your opportunity to show your genuine interest in this specific role, highlight your most relevant skills and experience, and share a bit of your personality and stand out from the crowd. So why wouldn't you take the opportunity to add depth to your application? It doesn't need to be lengthy, just a couple of paragraphs that spells out, why you're interested in this particular role, what you see as being your most relevant skills and experience, and why that employer should consider you. Should you use AI? I hear some of you asking. Maybe. Sure, it can be a helpful point to start, but then it's so important to personalize it and make sure that it sounds like you. Avoid the generic robotic tone. I read hundreds of cover letters every week and I can spot an AI one written a mile away. I was saying to Nikki earlier, I love ChatGPT. I use it all the time. But I think if you can write a cover letter yourself, then you should, because it'll almost always be stronger. And while not directly related to cover letters here, I did want to say, don't spray and pray with job applications. Don't just apply for anything and everything. Ensure that the roles are relevant and of interest to you. Don't be put off by large application numbers. I know the likes of Seek and LinkedIn these days tell you how many others have applied for that role. Don't be put off by that, because if the role is right for you, apply. And remember to track your applications so that you're prepared when you receive a call from a recruiter or an employer to discuss your application. You remember the role, the one they're talking about. If you're not available to talk when they call you, there's no harm in asking for a call back. And if you don't hear anything about your application, follow up on it. We hear all too often about recruiters or employers ghosting candidates, and simply it's not good enough. But sometimes, unfortunately, it does fall on you to follow that up.
Can I just ask a question? How long should you leave it before you follow up? That's what I've heard people asking.
Yeah, good question. Take note if there is a closing date on the ad. If there is, I wouldn't follow up before then. We at McLaren, we don't shortlist until after the closing date, so we've received all applications. I know some do say that they will review applications before the closing date, so get in early, but take note if there's a closing date, and if there is, follow up after that. If there is no closing date and you haven't heard anything, a week is probably fine to check in and see where your application is at.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Cool. Using LinkedIn. So you don't need to be on LinkedIn every day, but when you use it purposefully, it can work for you in the background. So think of LinkedIn as your mini CV, but with a little bit more personality, because it gives you the opportunity to engage and post and show people who you are. So it's also often the first place a recruiter or a hiring manager will look you up. So it's worth making sure that your information is current, especially your job titles and your dates. And we do cross-check CVs with LinkedIn. So if they don't match, if dates don't match, titles don't match, it can raise a red flag. So make sure that the details are correct and mirrored between your CV and your LinkedIn profile. What matters most on LinkedIn? You've got your photo and your about section. So unlike your CV, you should have a photo on LinkedIn. Ideally, a friendly, professional looking headshot. You don't need to pay someone to do it, but one that's professional. The about section, that's your chance to share a little bit more about who you are, what you value, and what you're looking for, kind of like your professional statement at the top of your CV. Keep it authentic and clear. Follow and connect. So the purpose of LinkedIn, it's a business networking social media site. So connect with people who work at organizations that you admire. Follow wine industry leaders, potential employers, recruiters. Like and comment on posts. It helps to really warm up your approach if you do end up applying for a role later. And it is certainly if I see someone engaging thoughtfully online, it's already giving me a good first impression. Use it for research and visibility. So LinkedIn, it's not just for job ads, it's also a goldmine for research. So you can look at a company and you can see who works there, how people describe their work, and what matters to organizations based on what they post. And when you're active, even if just once or twice a month, you stay visible. The LinkedIn algorithms start favoring your profile when it sees updates or engagement. Be active but not spammy. Comment thoughtfully, share small insights, post a win or a lesson learned, things like that. Let people know that you're open to opportunities. You can use the open to work feature, and that doesn't necessarily mean that green open to work banner that's open to everyone. You can actually do it privately in your settings so that only recruiters know that you're open. So it's a low effort way to get on recruiters' radar, even if you're not ready to make a public move yet. Interviewing. So I know it's here, sorry. Research the company. So really take the time to look at the company's website, their LinkedIn, and really get to know about who they are, what's important to them. Look at the latest news. Have they had any recent product launches or any news articles about them, good or bad? You want to know about the company. Know the role that you are being interviewed for. If you haven't already received a position description before your interview, ask for one so that you're really thoroughly up to speed with the role, what it is that you'd be doing, what it is that they're looking for, so you can start thinking about your experience and how that relates to this particular role. Prepare examples using the STAR method. So a very common interview style is the behavioural interview or a competency-based interview where they will say to you, tell us about a time where you did X. So for example, tell me about a time when you dealt with a difficult situation. While you might not encounter this type of interview, as I say, it's pretty common and it's always a great style to prepare for. So the best way to do this is using the STAR method, STAR. It's a simple framework to help you tell clear, concise, and compelling stories during interviews and share examples of your experience. So STAR stands for the S is situation, set the scene. Where were you and what was going on? T is task. What were you responsible for? What was the challenge or goal? A is action. What did you do? And R is the result. What happened? Share the outcome. And if possible, include results or learnings. And remember to talk about you, what you did and you achieved. It's really important to say I. We're very quick to default to saying we, but the interviewer wants to glean exactly what you did in that situation. So remember to say I. An example using the STAR method would be for that question, tell us about a time where you dealt with a difficult situation. Could be when our cellar door team was short-staffed during a holiday weekend. That's the situation. I was asked to step up and coordinate shifts. That's your task. I reworked the roster, communicated with staff, and jumped in to help. That's your action. And we hit record sales with no complaints. That's your result. Show curiosity. You'll always get the opportunity at the end of an interview to ask questions. Don't just ask questions for the sake of them. Have some thoughtful questions prepared about the role or the team or the culture, and make them specific. So for example, what does success look like in this role? Or how will you know I'm successful 6 months from now? Or what do you enjoy about working here? If you're not sure what to ask, ChatGPT can really help with interview preparation there as well. Know your CV inside out. Be prepared to talk through anything on your CV, as I say, especially in any gaps or short stints. Be honest, confident, and brief in talking about your CV. Practice aloud. It really builds confidence and polish. So, practice answering questions with a friend or even just in front of a mirror. You can do it online like this. Record yourself if you want. You want to sound natural and prepared, but not robotic. Bring your authentic self. Employers want to meet you, and authenticity matters more than perfection. And bonus professional vibe, dress for the company culture. If you're not sure what that is, you can ask before your interview. Be punctual, and for virtual interviews, make sure that your tech works. So if you are doing a Zoom or a Teams interview, test your tech beforehand and make sure that works. Any questions at this point, Nikki?
No, nothing popped up at this stage.
All right, cool. We'll carry on. What employers really want. So employers, they want to hire a person that they can trust and work well with, not just a list of skills. So if you can show them you're the person who'll make their life easier and their team better, then you're already winning. Hiring managers today, they tell us that it's not just about the technical skills, which of course are important, but it's often about the soft skills that are just going to make you a great colleague and a great teammate. You'll see a little stat at the bottom of the slide here. According to the 2025 Hayes Skills Report for Australia and New Zealand, 84% of hiring managers say communication, teamwork, and problem solving are essential, and those soft skills often beat out formal qualifications and experience. So we'll break that down just a couple of examples that I have up there. Initiative. Can you see a need and act on it? Employers want to see someone who doesn't wait to be told. Adaptability. Things change quickly, especially in smaller or seasonal businesses. Are you flexible and ready to pitch in when things change? Attitude. Are you positive, enthusiastic, and team first? Sometimes your outlook is just as important as your skills, as I say. Self-awareness. Can you reflect on your own performance, take feedback on board, and keep growing? cultural ad. It's not just about fitting in, it's about bringing something fresh and valuable to the team, whether that's energy, perspective, or a different way of thinking. As I said, remember, perfection isn't the goal. It's about being authentic, reliable, and ready to contribute. That all really goes a long way. Put together here some great resources. We've got our own blog there. Got to put a little plug in for that. So at mclaren.co.nz, we have a job seeker blog where we regularly post things that are helpful to job seekers. We also have some resources there about putting together your CV, preparing for interviews, and writing cover letters and things like that. So check out our page. The Introverted Recruiter. This is a chap that I came across recently. I highly recommend him, actually. He's a British recruiter, and he shares real-world, authentic advice on recruitment and job hunting from a recruiter's perspective, and also has lots of free templates. So he's at theintrovertedrecruiter.substack.com. Career Coaches, My Career Brand. We often work with My Career Brand. They're a team of career coaches. So for personalised help with CVs, LinkedIn profiles, or interview prep, they offer expert coaching and can help you really polish your story and boost your confidence. And they're at mycareerbrand.net. LinkedIn Learning. So if you like learning at your own pace, LinkedIn Learning has hundreds of courses on everything from writing CVs and acing interviews to leadership skills, and they often have free trials and products there too. Nikki and I were talking about this earlier, and that's about networking, and you really can't underestimate the power of your networks. So lean into Women in Wine and other industry groups. They're fantastic places for support, connections, and finding opportunities. Particularly in New Zealand, it's often who you know, not what you know. So really lean into your networks. And there's my details there. You can always email me or call me. My details are on the next slide. Or connect with me on LinkedIn and follow McLaren Recruitment on LinkedIn. Q&A. Come to the end of my prepared presentation. So,
yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Kirsty. Lots and lots of advice in there. I think really good practical help. I just had another couple of questions. You hear about when you apply for jobs, especially as there's so many applications these days, about we've been talking about how your CV can stand out as if a human was reading it. What about if they're all being run through AI? How are there supposed to be keywords that you include, or how can you stand out amongst the masses in that situation?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'll be honest, I don't know how frequently AI is used for CVs and application screening in New Zealand yet. I know it's certainly increasing in popularity overseas, and presumably is used here. We don't. At McLaren, we still view every application is viewed by a human, by one of our consultants. But I guess to prepare for that, yes, it is about keywords. So looking at the keywords in the job ad, in the position description that they're looking for this role, and really weaving those keywords into your application, into your CV, into your cover letter, so that you can demonstrate that you have the experience that they're looking for.
That sounds good. Thank you. And I guess the other one I've heard people always discuss is, at what point do you ask what the pay is going to be? When do you leave that question that makes everybody nervous?
Yeah, I know, and it does. It is a nervous conversation, particularly for Kiwis. I appreciate that. My advice is to ask early. We receive calls and emails all the time whilst we're advertising a role, just asking about the salary, and there's nothing wrong with that. Particularly for yourself, you don't want to go to the effort of preparing a tailored, personalised application, which can take hours, to then apply and find out later that actually that salary isn't going to meet your expectations. So I would say ask early.
Great, thank you. Has anybody else got any questions they'd like to ask or pop in the chat? we've certainly covered a lot of really good practical advice. Any final comments on if you have a virtual interview? Sorry, I'm getting like how you should start, what you should wear, how you present yourself in a virtual interview.
Yeah, I think prepare for a virtual interview as you would for a face-to-face interview. Dress professionally, turn up on time. I think be prepared the same way you would. Actually, we hired a woman for our team a few years ago, and we interviewed her from Australia, and she later told us when she arrived that she was in her pajama pants. At the time, which is fine. We couldn't see them, but I guess
she looks good. Yeah,
on top she looked good. Business up top. But I guess think about situations like, I don't know, it's New Zealand, an earthquake could happen. You might have to jump up and run, or I don't know. Just maybe don't wear the pajama pants.
I think if you dress well, you feel good as well. You feel a
That's
bit more
true.
confident. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, there are questions that it's just refreshed. So we've got one here just saying, just out of curiosity, how do you screen CVs when there's hundreds of applications? Is it quite common? I think we've touched on that, HR recruitment agencies to use ATS tool scanning before you manually screen. So I think we did touch on that one, really. You're saying that some...
Yeah. I think probably some employers do, particularly, for example, if it was a large employer with a graduate program where they're going to be receiving hundreds of applications. It is actually the norm to receive hundreds of applications at the moment anyway. So I think, be prepared for that. But we're not using that at the moment.
Another question here about how short a gap in your employment would you add an explanation for? So if it was, I guess, 2 or 3 months, or is 6 months okay? Or how long should that gap?
Yeah, no hard and fast rule. Maybe you could just put, I think probably for any gap, so the role before it, maybe you could say your reason for leaving. And that would, it could be my role is disestablished, and then that shows me that during that period of time you were looking for a new role. So yeah, I would probably tend to address it more often than not, but there's no hard fast rule around it.
Okay, thank you. And there's another one here. What about skills and goals? Is the CV a good place, or is that better in the cover letter?
Yeah, I think in the CV is probably your place to put that. In terms of ones that are really relevant to the position you're applying for, you might want to pick that out and put that into your cover letter. And as I say, weave it through all the material. But yeah, certainly listing your skills and your goals would be a good place in the CV.
Right. Okay, we've got one more just come in. Any tips for older women in the workplace? Do you notice any age bias from recruiting companies?
I do. I hear about it often, and I've been reading about it a lot in the news recently. So unfortunately, ageism is a thing. I recently did some stats, and at McLaren, actually, a really high proportion of the people that we put into roles are in that older category. So I can hand on heart say you won't find that at McLaren, but you do find it places, unfortunately. My advice, I think, is really tuning into the skills and experience that you do have. There is so much value in that, and talking about how you can add that value to the employer, perhaps even, as I say, beyond what they think they're looking for. What is the extra skills and experience you can bring? I think that experience and life experience brings so much value. Maybe talk to a career coach around how best to position yourself. Yeah. It is a thing, unfortunately.
Yeah, something we've noticed as well on couple of bits of research we've done. So anyway, hopefully that's good tip for people. Right, I think that's it on all the questions coming in. So unless there's anything else you'd like to add, I think we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Kirsty. It's been an invaluable session, and yeah, look forward to being in touch. And anyone else has got any more questions they'd like to send through afterwards, that's fine as well. So
yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you.
Cool.
And enjoy the rest of the day, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nikki. Thank you, everyone.